Council will call the meeting to order. For the record, it is May 28th, 2024 at 6 p.m. We'll begin tonight's regular city council meeting with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Cavanagh.
Here.
Councilwoman Little Roberts. Here. Councilman Taylor.
Here.
Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilwoman Strader.
Here.
Mayor Simison.
Here. Next item up is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please rise and join us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible.
We did not have anyone sign up for the community invocation. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk? Yep. Okay. So with that, we will move on to adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
just one small addition to the agenda. I'm going to move that we amend the consent agenda to add a new item 24, resolution 242456. Resolution of the City Council, the City of Meridian reappointing Stephen Lewis to seat 5, Tracy Hopkins to seat 6, and Jared Smith to seat 7 of the Meridian Transportation Commission, and for providing for an effective date. Council, this was just a last minute addition to accommodate the Transportation Commission. These are 3 commissioners that are being reappointed. We'll allow them to be able to participate in their next meeting.
Which is next Monday.
Next Monday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted as amended. Next up is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
that change, I move that we approve the consent agenda for the mayor to sign, the clerk to attest.
Have a motion, a second, to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is agreed to. There are no items moved from the consent agenda, so we will move on to Mr. Clerk. Anyone sign up under the public forum?
Mr. Mayor, there are no signups.
There are no signups. So with that, we will move right in to our action items for this evening. Action item 25 is a recommendation and approval of my appointment of Brian Whitlock to be the city council member for District 1. Council, with the loss of Joe Borton, his years of experience, his knowledge, his engagement, the respect that he had by many in the community, trying to find a replacement was a pretty arduous task. And while I'm familiar with a lot of people that live in the area, when I got a call, I was surprised from someone that I thought could help rise to the occasion so quickly was interested in the job. It really became from that point in time, it became a relief in a lot of ways to know that we had someone that high quality and caliber that was interested. We took applications from the community. We did interviews with the council president and I for the finalists for the job, and Brian Whitlock is the person who rose to the top for consideration. Interesting, I first met Mr. Whitlock many years ago when I moved back here from Idaho and was being shepherded around Boise looking for a job. One of the people that was helping me do that took me around to all the people that he thought I needed to know in Idaho. And we stopped at Brian's office when he was working for INL. And that was the first time I had an opportunity to get to know him. And since then, we've formed a good relationship, working, professional, sometimes, even more so in that regard. And so when he put his hat in the ring, it was, we're lucky. I think that's the best way I can say that. He lives in the area. He's got a passion for service. He's got expertise at all levels of government. You go back and look to when Boise, I think, really turned the corner. He was there. He was part of that. He was helping make that happen. And, not a lot of people have a sideline seat or a seat at the table for an individual that can transition the way Senator, Mayor, Governor Kempthorne did, and Brian was there all along the way helping make that happen. And for him to now say, I want to take some of my freer time and dedicated in this way, we're lucky. So it's my proud honor to recommend him to fill this seat pending your approval. And I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
seeing any questions, and I'll just appreciate your comments, Mayor, and I think you, our community should also be really, really proud. When we moved to districts, man, I was worried when we do this, who would be willing to do this? Who would be willing to serve? And not only who, would we get somebody who's really high quality? And, you know, I look at us, we function as a team. And I'm really pleased that we were able to find somebody that can be a good complement to this team, that brings a lot of experience, a lot of passion, care for our community. So, Mr. Mayor, if it's appropriate, I'm happy to move that we recommend your approval of the appointment of Brian Whitlock to the City Council for District 1.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have discussion? All right, then we'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh,
Aye.
Little Roberts,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Overton,
Aye.
Strater.
All ayes, motion carries, and we are almost official. So with that, we will move down to the podium. Brian, if you and your family would like to join us for the taking the oath. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Idaho, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of City Councilman of the City of Meridian according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. I see they've got a seat up there vacant right up there, and I'm sure they'll be happy to take any comments you have on this matter at this time. Councilman Whitlock, any comments you'd like to make at this time?
Mr. Mayor, if I, whoops. You know, let's try that again, Mr. Mayor. First off, let me thank you for the confidence that you've placed in me and for the opportunity to serve with this amazing group of passionate and dedicated public servants. I've had a chance to sit down with each of them, and the city of Meridian is well served, and I'm honored to be included as part of this city council. I'd like to thank my wife and maybe introduce my wife, Kelly. She has been supportive throughout the years, and public service is a big part of our lives. And so thank you, sweetheart, for your support. And my daughter is here as well, Megan. Say hi. Okay. And I've just enjoyed good support, and our family believes in giving back to the communities that have given us so much. So I look forward to this opportunity. Look forward to learning from each of you and being a part of this great body.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And we're going to put you to test right away, maybe. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Taylor.
just take a moment and just commend you on the selection. Brian, let me be the first to officially welcome you here from the podium. Glad to have you. I'm not sure how many people know, but Brian and I used to work together about 14 years ago. We worked together at INL. So I know from personal experience, Brian's incredibly experienced, dedicated, kind of a perfect fit for this role. I think above all, though, he's a person of utmost integrity and honesty, and I think that's a real welcome addition to the council and a good example to the community and his family. So just really glad to have Brian and that he was willing to step forward and do this. And so welcome, and we're glad to have you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
welcome, Brian. We're very lucky to have you. It was fantastic sitting down and meeting with you, and I think the whole city will really benefit from your skill set and your diverse experience. Particularly, I think with your experience in the medical field, I think that's going to be really interesting for us to have that on the council. And I know, we've had big shoes to fill with Joe's departure, but it's fantastic to have you. And I just want to thank you for stepping up to serve and thank your family for supporting you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Lila Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, Brian, welcome. So excited when I heard that you had even put your name in to consider this, because I know that your life is already very busy. And so just feel really honored that you'll be sharing this time with us, and the fact that we were pretty concerned when we lost Joe, and you bring a wealth of knowledge and just your personality of getting things done in a collaborative way. I think will be just a great fit. So welcome.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
Okay, Joe's gone. We don't need to talk about him anymore. Brian's here. Welcome, Brian. I never worked with you before, and until you and I sat down, it was the first time I met you. And I've got to tell you that as much as you're looking forward to learning from us and what we've learned over the years working for the city, I hope to learn from all of the vast experiences you've had as well, because you bring an awful lot to the table here for our city council. And I think we're extremely lucky that you're willing to serve, and can't wait to see that happen. Thank you.
All right. With that, let's go to work. Next item up is item 27, which is a public hearing continuing from May 7th, 2024 for Burnside Ridge Estates, H 2023-0055. We will continue this public hearing with staff comments. I'll turn to Councilman Whitlock first for any declaration he'd like to make.
Mr. Mayor, while being extremely new to the council, I did attend the May 7th City Council meeting virtually and listened to the presentation that evening, rewatched it as well, and have read the staff report. So unless there are concerns by members of the council, I feel comfortable participating in the discussion this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I will turn this over to Mr. Parsons for any additional comments from staff.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Whitlock, a pleasure to meet you. As a staff member, I haven't had a pleasure to work with you either, so this is our first time together, but I'm here to help and answer any questions you may have about the process. And we have a lot of great staff that will do the same thing for you. So anytime you have any questions or concerns about a project, please reach out to us and we'll do our best to get you an answer. So Mayor, Council, really nothing new to add on this particular project. If you recall, on May 7th, we were all here. It was getting late into the evening, and this was the last item on the agenda. And Council President Kavanagh had stated, let's get through the public hearing portion of it, let the applicant present, staff, get public testimony, and then have the applicant come back and close, and then have this body deliberate. So unless the council wants me to go into any of the details of the project, I'm happy to turn it over to the applicant and let them get their 10 minutes for rebuttal and allow you to get to deliberating on this application.
Okay. Thank you, council. Anything else you need at this point in time? Okay. Well, before we turn over, did we have a public sign-up sheet?
Mr. Mayor, we did not.
Okay.
There was no sign up online that was open though.
Does council want to take additional testimony from any public that is present that didn't testify the last time, if they wish to do so?
Righty. Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
if I recall, and staff will set me straight, is that we're going to allow public testimony if they did not testify at the first hearing. So if there's someone here that would like to testify that didn't testify last time, they're welcome to do that. If not, then we'll move into applicant closings.
Is there anybody present who would like to provide testimony on this item who didn't do so last time, either in the room or online? If you're online, you'll need to raise your hand on the Zoom feature. If you're in the room, if you want to step forward. Okay, seeing no one coming forward or raising their hands, invite the applicant up to provide closing comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Heath Clark, 251 East Front Street for the record. And I suppose it is a good thing that I'm here often enough that I got to see Councilmember Borton's last day, and now I get to see Councilmember Whitlock's first day. Those are good problems to have, so welcome. So I was asked to, provide our rebuttal tonight, and in a large focus of that is the mayor's question to me during the last hearing about what's different now versus a couple of years ago. Before I dive into that, I do want to make one point. You might recall that during the May 7th hearing, we talked about conditions of approval that we'd like to see modified. One of those was condition A2H, and staff had indicated that they wanted to see a 20-foot common lot on the western boundary of the project. We talked about that more with staff, and we're all in agreement that 7 feet is appropriate there. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned on May 7th, you don't want to create a big, wide common lot that looks like a pathway that invites people to come into the irrigation district's facilities over there. So with that, we are in agreement with all of the conditions. And just another reminder that we suggested a new condition that we put in signage, and I would add a barricade at the end of the Calkins lateral. This was one of the neighbors' requests to make sure that people didn't think that they should continue going east on that lateral. Okay, so with that, what has changed since the prior application that was before this council about 2 years ago? This application actually goes back quite a ways, or the project on this site goes back quite a ways, 4.5 years to the pre-application meetings that took place in November of 2019. The application that was before the council before was recommended for approval by staff. It was unanimously recommended for approval by Planning and Zoning Commission. It was denied by council. And we were obviously disappointed at the time. We struggled with the decision. I'm not going to go into the facts of that. My firm attempted to correct the record at the time, and those comments can be referred to if they're needed. And if the council's decision tonight would be based on what happened 2 years ago, I would incorporate those comments by reference. So let's focus on actually what's before you and what's changed. So at the time, we could have abandoned the project. We could have pulled the ripcord. Excuse me, but we think this is a good project. We had staff recommendation of approval, P&Z recommendation of approval, significant neighbor support, and we thought it was worth trying again. So we did 2 things to prepare for a new submittal. First, we looked back at the site and reevaluated whether there's some things that need to change. And second, we stepped back and we watched what the council did in the intervening 2 years to see if the situation had changed. So looking at the site, So looking at the site, we did add the Jackson property on our northeast. That's not a significant change, but it does help bring in more large lot property with arterial frontage to help make that area more consistent in appearance and density with city planning. But probably the most important thing that we did had to do with the holding area. So as you all are aware, annexation, one of the standards is to look at whether the city has the ability to serve the annexed property. And that was one of the concerns at the time, was that that portion of the property was not serviceable because it was in a separate sewer shed. So we considered leaving that out of the application altogether. I described this at the hearing the other night. Rather than doing so, and it's staff's strong recommendation, we kept it in, but we're just calling it a holding area. We've provided a concept plan, but that is not moving forward for development. Not until that new sewer shed opens, and that won't happen until the city decides to open that sewer shed. So this is totally within the city's control. In addition, we added some R8 product in the center of the project. As you might recall, our density is at the very low end on the comp plans. We meet the density, but it's very low. And so we added that to add some density and to meet those comprehensive plan obligations. And since then, there have been improvements based on this hearing process. So last time, we did not have 10-foot mixed-use trails along both sides of the collectors, and then those have been added through this process. So then it became a matter of timing. We could have reapplied in June of 2023, but we waited and we watched to see what would happen to two projects to our east. So one of those was Brundage Estates, and let's see if I can get a cursor to show up here. No luck. There we go. So that's the R4 area that's just to the east of our project that's outlined in red. You might recall, those of you that have been around for a minute, that Brundage Estates was the annexation path for the entirety of the 1,400-acre annexation that the city conducted a few years ago. So it's obviously a viable annexation path. The Brundage Estates project's preliminary plat was renewed by the council in September of 2022. And we're told it's under contract. We're hopeful that that'll continue to move forward. But the fact is that that continues to be annexed property. The major test in our minds came later with Windrow subdivision. So this is the area on the south, the R8, that's just south of Brundage Estates. Some of you will recall that I was part of the team that brought that one before the council. That was approved last fall and in September of 2023, which completed the development of the entire western face of that square mile. So once we saw that Windrow was approved, we believed it was appropriate to go ahead and bring this back and ask the council to look at it again. So we resubmitted the next month in October of 2023. So with that, we believe you have before an application before you that has been unanimously recommended for approval by P&Z again. Staff's recommended approval. We're in agreement on all of the conditions of approval, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago. Other than some discussions about block lengths, which is about the most eye of the beholder thing that's in our code right now, other than maybe some of the open space qualification and the landscape standards, we meet all of the city standards. I walked you through this during the last meeting. All of the emergency services are there. Water and sewer are at the boundaries. There is school capacity. Discussed with Councilmember Kavanagh that the elementary school has capacity, high school has capacity, middle school is the one that's getting tighter. But West Ada already has a middle school site, and they're not moving forward on that site because enrollment in the middle schools throughout the district has dropped. ACHD has indicated that all streets have capacity. It won't allow improvements to streets until those improvements are warranted. But since the last hearing, we went and checked for updates. The Linder Road overpass is under design. Right-of-way is going to be acquired in 24 and 25, according to ACHD. The Victory and Linder Road roundabout now has a design year of 28 and 29. And improvements to Victory between Linder and Meridian Road also have a design year of 28 and 29. So that process is also moving forward. So in other words, the evidence in the record shows that without debate, really, that services are available, that we meet city standards. And in fact, we've doubled the amenity requirements that the city has asked for any project like this. So let me leave you with a couple thoughts and then happy to answer questions. First, I want to remind everybody what it is that we're approving. As I mentioned at the last meeting, you're not opening up any floodgates with this application. We have county development on the north, and this map shows it a little better than the last one. We have county development on our west that blocks city expansion in both of those directions. And then the city controls its destiny on the south. That area won't open for more development until the city decides to move forward with that new sewer shed. So rather than opening up a whole new front, this is more of a pocket of additional city expansion at this point in time. And then I also just kind of wanted to go back to the planning. The city sends a message when it puts property in its area of city impact. The city sends a message when it puts property in its comprehensive plan and gives it a residential designation, easy for me to say. The city sends a message when it builds out infrastructure serving property. And that is that if you come to us with a project that satisfies our comp plan, and if we have services and we think that you have done what we've asked you to do, that we want you to be part of the city. And this application has done that and more. They've brought in the neighbors, they've worked with them. They've transitioned between the more dense property on the east and the less dense property on the west. They've doubled the amenity points with a well-planned central area that's very akin to the planned communities that I've worked on throughout the rest of the valley. They've satisfied all the staff's comments, all of the conditions. We think they've gone the extra mile. They've been working at this for a long time, and we ask that we be able to move forward at this point. So I think my time's up, and I'll be ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Heath. Council, questions for the applicant? All right.
If you have questions, I'd love to answer them. So if there's concerns about any of the services, anything along those lines, we've studied it out. We're ready to answer. Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Councilman Whitlock.
may I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Clark, you mentioned the block faces and
Mhm.
I think they exceed what is a normal block face, in some cases by double. Are you comfortable with staff recommendations that we consider some traffic calming measures along those extended block faces?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Whitlock, absolutely. So those block faces in some ways are driven by the topography and geography of the site. In some cases, our code doesn't really accommodate for some of the things that we've seen. So for example, Moline has almost a 90-degree bend in it, but we don't get any credit for that. Over at Pivot, the road actually comes in east to west, and maybe I think I've got a drawing here. Maybe it'll come back. There we go. So, Bill, could you point to so this block that Bill's pointing to, even though there's a 90-degree turn that goes northwest there, that's all one block. And so even though you have that intersection, it's still being treated as a single block face. So those are the kinds of things that we're talking about. We're not talking about trying to put in drag strips or anything like that. But to your question, Councilmember Whitlock, absolutely. We will work with ACHD, and we've already talked to them about the types of traffic mitigation, which would include bulb outs, chokers, stamped concrete, and all of that will be addressed at the construction drawing phase.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
happy to kick off some discussion. I've always liked this project. I liked it the first time it came through too. My big concern was what you've articulated, which is sort of opening the floodgates for development west of Linder Road. What I appreciate about this application, I appreciate your applicant's perseverance and sticking with it. I think we've had some more time to get our arms around this area. I appreciate the specific designation of the holding area that corresponds to the new sewer shed that would need to be created to serve it. I think that was a good strategic decision on your part. And, you know, I just overall think if there was going to be one to pick, you know, sort of in this area west of Linder Road, I think this would be the one, in my opinion. I appreciate all of the work with the neighbors to try to create something cohesive with the surrounding properties. So I'm supportive of the application. Happy to hear if others have discussion, happy to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
I wasn't here for the first time this ever came through. So this is my first opportunity to look at this development. And I'm impressed. It has a lot of what I look for in a development now, which is the lower density residential. I think sometimes we get so many applications that are the much higher density and the multifamily that we forget that we still have a place in our community for this lower density type of residential. I was also very impressed in the application that you presented with the level and type of amenities that you're providing throughout. I think it's a good fit for the area. I don't see that it would open the floodgates to that part of the city. I think you've done a great job in designing it. I appreciate the holding area very much. I think that's going to help. It acknowledges the problems that we face as a city down the road, and I'll be supportive of this evening.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Schrader.
I move that we close the public hearing.
A motion and second to close the public hearing. Is there discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2023-0055 as presented in the staff report for today's hearing date with a couple of additional conditions. That we grant a waiver to exceed the maximum block face allowed by the UDC for Block 7, Block 1, Block 5, and Block 10, as described by staff, with the applicant's agreement to include traffic calming measures that Mr. Clark outlined, bulb outs, stamped concrete, et cetera. In addition to that, that we amend condition A to H to allow a 7-foot common lot for the Gibbons lateral easement. And that we add the additional condition that there be signage and a barricade at the Calkins lateral.
Second.
I have a motion in a couple seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
quick, opinion hasn't changed about this project since the last time. And, I want to commend the team. I think it takes a lot of discipline to bring back the project because you believe in it, despite a denial. We don't see that very often, and I want to commend you for doing it. I believe in that project then. I'm very, very supportive of it now. My comments last time were that this should be the model for single-family residential in South Meridian, and I hope your creativity and ingenuity and determination invite more people to do something similar in this part of town. I'm very, very supportive of this project. I'm really excited to vote in favor of it tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Litlock.
do all proposals exceed the amenity points by double? I think that was stated in the last meeting, but I was impressed when I saw that the amenity points were significant on this. I think it'll be a great addition to the community and am supportive of the motion.
There's no further comments. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts. Taylor.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Strader.
Aye.
Whitlock.
All ayes, motion carries, the item is agreed to. Thank you very much. Council, anything under future meeting topics or a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Whitlock.
I move that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.